Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. It's Wei T. Lightheart from Bioptimizers with another episode of the Awesome Health Podcast. And I am joined today with none other than Joshua Holland. And let me tell you, this guy knows a lot about fitness, wellness, lifestyle, and biohacking. In fact, celebrities and high-profile clients are scrambling to get him. We've caught him in between trips. Even during this whole lockdown thing, he's in demand. He's been in the Hamptons. He's in New York. He's coming to LA. He's all over the place. Well, we're going to find out why that is. Bottom line is Joshua is, quote-unquote, a dedicated biohacker, state-of-the-art fitness trainer, and holistic health coach, as well as sports professional. And one of the interesting things that I think Joshua talks about is his philosophy of awareness through experience. And so one of his big claim to fames, if you will, is he consults with elite professionals to kind of build a bigger well, a deeper bag of tricks or tools or resources to evoke the alignment of the body, mind, and spirit for his clients. There's so much you can learn here. By the way, if you haven't checked out his Instagram or checked out his profile, I mean, he's got some pretty awesome stuff, and he's one badass looking dude. This is awesome. I'm so excited because, of course, my background is in fitness and all that sort of stuff, so it's really great. By the way, he is the co-founder of several fitness and health entities, including being a global ambassador for a number of companies, including Techno Gym. Love Techno Gym. So awesome. Love that. And he leads a team of trainers and health coaches at SystimFit in the Flatiron district of New York City. Oh, wow. Where is this? Got it. This is like dream lifestyle, man. Like you made the big time, as they say. All right. So, hey, man, Joshua, welcome to the show.
Wade, man, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on. This is definitely a highlight of my day. I'm excited. I'm excited to chat with you and share my experience and just let's have a good time and vibe, man. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks. Well, both Matt and I, who are the co-founders of Bioptimizers, we started in doing personal training, nutrition, and I think personally, it is one of the most rewarding careers anybody can get to. Number one, it started my business career because I had literally people were paying me that you could never get an appointment with ever. And they're giving me their insights and advice for free while I'm getting paid. I love that part. And I know you're in that situation, but let's get a little background. How did you become a go-to person with kind of some of these who's? We can't name names or anything, so folks, just be ready for that. Part of the deal when you deal with, big name people is privacy as an utmost important of a professional relationship. And so we're not going to be throwing around celebrity tidbits and stuff, but we can get some insights because these people can hire anybody. Mm-hmm. Why are they hiring you? How did you get to that position? And tell us the whole backstory.
Okay, wonderful question. And thanks for the lovely intro and nice lead into the question. I feel like my need or the desire to work with me has started since I was a little boy. And, I grew up in a martial arts background. So my father has a martial arts school in Oklahoma, where I'm from. And I grew up in a very, very small town. And I basically I like to say my brother and I, we grew up and we were born into martial arts. And if you or any of your followers and listeners are familiar with the martial arts world, it's a very different way of growing up. Especially if you're kind of born into it, you learn the Eastern philosophies at a young age, or at least I did. I learned how to be a good leader. I learned how to be a good follower. I learned how to use my experience and my understanding of the arts to elevate me to another level, right? So when I was 12 years old, actually before I turned 12 years old, I got my black belt. And wow. in my dad's karate system, because of his experience and his background, he developed this martial arts style called American Karate System, which was a blended style of arts because that's what he experienced growing up. So he decided to create his own blend. And this was all kind of before UFC and mixed martial arts became a thing. Right?
Wow.
Yeah. So he decided, okay, look, he created this karate school on the side, but he was also the chief of police of my hometown, right?
Wow.
Chandler, Oklahoma. He was an EMT. He was a storm chaser. He was a carpenter, and he was also, he did massage therapy and was an herbalist. So he did all of these things.
But the true martial arts pathway of, coming eventually, a lot of people don't know this about martial arts, is like the highest forms is you become a healer essentially.
Well said. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I would even add another level to that. You become a healer and a guide because, right. And that we can also talk about later when it comes to my brand and methodology and ideology. But my goal is to be a guide, right? And I had to be guided in order to learn what a good guide is. Mm-hmm. And so I got that from both of my parents because I also was able to see that my mom, my mom and dad are now since divorced, but together when they were together, it was interesting to see the relationship between how my mom, who's this powerful being in the family structure, and my dad, who's this powerful being, but they were very different powerful beings, but they came together to create this system for my brother and I to grow up within. And, once I learned all there was to know, at least with martial arts, like for instance, to become a black belt in my dad's system, you have to certify in anatomy, first aid, because that's what my dad had to do at being an EMT. But he also thought, let's instill that as a part of the protocols, because not only should you be able to hurt someone in case you need to hurt someone, but you also need to be able to take care of someone in case you need to be able to take care of someone. So that was his art. It was more about defending yourself, protecting yourself, helping others, but also kicking ass if you need to at the end of the day, right?
Wow. That's really cool. It's kind of that classic, where the guy meets the little old bearded guy at the other end of the thing, and he's like, "Oh, first you must learn the philosophy." It's kind of like, yep. You got to understand. And I think a lot of people miss. There's two things that you brought up, and we'll get into that a little more, but I want to touch base on them. Number one, I think everybody wants to be a leader today, but few people need to learn how to be coached and a follower. And that's the first stage of that process. The second thing that you brought up is the components of a philosophy. It's not just about, hey, I can, kick this high or beat up this many people or do all this sort of stuff. There's an overarching philosophy, and obviously this is probably leading into what you're going to share, but keep going. I want to make those comments so that we touch back on that, because I think it's really important.
It's very, very important. I think, for my experience, and again, I'll use the word experience a lot because I think that's what ultimately shapes who I am and how I teach and how I work with people. It started with this idea of sort of looking within, introspection, learning. And at a very young age, I had to understand that. I knew without a doubt that there was this idea of me being, let's say, 12 years old or pre-adolescent and getting to the ranks of a black belt or, surpassing that, but then having like 35-year-old, 40-year-old people bow to me. And, understanding what that's all about, right? And it's not about, why am I bowing to a 12-year-old? Why am I bowing when I enter into the dojo? I had to quickly learn in this 12-year-old mind, I had to learn that, wait a minute, this is all about respect. This is all about discipline. This is all about keeping your dojo clean, taking your shoes off before you come in, respecting the dojo when you enter and when you exit, respecting your elders, but also respecting those that have put in the hard, the blood, sweat, and tears before you, no matter what age they are. And that's what became sort of evident from a very young age. And, it's also, I always like to say this story because when you go from in my dad's system, you go from a white belt to a yellow belt, and there's 3 yellow stripes in between before you go from white belt to yellow belt. And the average person, it takes approximately 2 to 3 months to go from white belt to yellow belt. It took my brother and I 2 years. 2 years to go from a white belt to a yellow belt. Now, imagine that 10-year-old, 11-year-old, 12-year-old boy, or, even maybe we were a little bit younger, but imagine seeing all of the peers around us, all of the kids that were our age, all the kids that were older than us, developing and getting their belts before us, and the pain that's welling up inside of us, seeing all of these other people, get their rank before us, and yet we're doing it just as good. But our dad said he never wanted anyone to try to claim that we got our rank because we're the son of the sensei.
Right.
And talk about manipulating or changing, altering the mind of that young being, which is me, right? And then I take that into getting my ranks, getting the confidence, being number 1 in the state for multiple years in fighting and breaking and forms and all the different things. But then letting that become the catalyst into actually going into other sports, because my dad was like, look, when you get your black belt, you can then go on to do whatever you want in school. It was kind of like he wanted us to become, my brother and I, to become black belts as a part of his vision for us. But then he knew that deep down inside, we wanted to do other things. We wanted to do what the other kids in school were doing, play baseball and football and basketball. And then that's what ultimately got me to where I am today, which we could talk about more. But I bring all of that up mostly to say that there is a real difference between working with someone who understands people and who understands discipline, who understands respect. And people at the high level, they can sense that. They sense that immediately. They sense it. And so that's something that's very, very hard to teach. But when you do have it, or you do happen to learn it, let that utilize that to get you wherever you need to go in life.
So well said. I think what I would say, it creates sort of a presence, and people can recognize, hey man, there's something about this dude that's different. There's something about this guy that you got kind of like, it's almost like chi power you build up. You build this
well said
presence that people go, I want what that guy has. And I know I asked, many of when I left the personal training industry, and today my top 5 clients who I was training at that time, 20 years ago, they're all my best friends today. And wow. And I've always asked, and I always found it. They said, "Yeah, we just saw that you had this other thing." Like they were exactly what you said. That you have as in French, they would say the je ne sais quoi, the something, right?
Yeah.
So all of that discipline and everything. Now, one of the things I've noticed with people who start martial arts at an early age, martial arts and gymnastics particularly, they seem to be able to do well in other sports later in life. Their motor skills, the development of their muscles, their aptitude to pick up other things, their learning capability. Did you find that it was easy for you to pick up other sports and do other things? Does that come natural and easy for you?
I have a big smile on my face and I'm grinning because I'm so happy you asked that question, and I'm happy that you asked it in the way you did, because you chose 2 specific sports when you asked that question, martial arts and gymnastics, both of which usually are done barefoot. And I'm a huge barefoot proponent of barefoot, and I love to talk about developing the foundation. I'm a big believer in developing the foundation, and that kind of goes across the board with anything. And I feel like teaching my body throughout my younger years and continuing up into my pre-adolescent years and even within my teens, being barefoot most of the time is what enabled me to create that sensory input from the bottom of the feet. being connected to the earth, whether you call it grounding, whether you call it earthing, whether you call it developing the strength and the dexterity within the feet, whatever you want to call it, that I truly believe is what enabled me to pick up things a lot quicker, because there is that connection between the synaptic firing from the bottom of the feet to the brain and back, right? And so when you have that part of your body and your entire body, your entire being developed at a very young age, and you keep that going, then it almost makes everything else a little bit easier to pick up. So that's how I was able to, and I don't mind, every once in a while I can mention a few names because, it's okay. But like, that's ultimately what enabled me to work with somebody as big as Madonna. And, to work with her, I have to be able to learn how to dance. And because she wanted to do dancing back when I used to train her, I trained her for about 4 years when I was actually her trainer. And she's like, look, I want dance fitness as a part of my cardio program. So I have to learn how to dance. Right. So, right. I mean, I wasn't necessarily a dancer. I would never, because I have a lot of friends that are to this day actual really bona fide dancers, professional dancers. So I would never call myself a dancer, but I had to learn to become somewhat of a dancer in order to be able to carry on that job. Well, if I was unable to do that, I may have lost out on that opportunity, which right. may not have gotten me on your podcast, right? Because maybe right. I wouldn't be where I'm at. So all of these things kind of play into each other, and it's all about adaptability, but also the willingness to learn. I always say having the willingness to want to learn is just as big as having a talent, right? You can have talent, you can turn on your genes, right? Or you can leave them off and you can figure out ways to hack it. And so we could talk about that as well. But yeah, I think that's a long-winded answer to, I think my foundation in martial arts definitely helped everything else.
So at what point did you, in this kind of journey, so you got got your black belt at 12, and then like, what happened from 12 to becoming a fitness professional? Like what went on that kind of led you into this career? Because I think that coaching and training for people who are thinking about a career in fitness, and I sometimes miss those days. I miss those days, and I've never lost that sense of the value of seeing somebody where you assess them, you see the raw potential in them, and then you extract the best parts. To me, it's probably one of the most beautiful relationships there is, the coach and the student. Like that, it's a very pure relationship, because the coach's job is only to get the best out of that person, and the coach is determined his quality or her quality by the amount they can get out of people and the amount of people they can get the best out of, And so how did you make to that jump? Because obviously it became natural. I mean, you're doing this as a 12-year-old in the gym.
Yeah.
Then how did that translate into your career today? Because you went from a small town to the Big Apple, right? Yeah,
exactly. Okay. I'll try to give you the quickest bit in there, and then we can dive deeper in parts that you want. But to wrap up that whole martial arts experience, you're precisely correct in saying that my teaching, because you also have to have a certain amount of teaching hours to become a black belt, and at least in my dad's system. So I had to learn how to actually teach, and then you show that you're a good teacher. So then you get rank, right? So you get promoted. So from playing or from going from getting my black belt, I then started to do more in sports in school. And I started to run track and play football and baseball. And I wanted to try my hand at all kinds of sports, because I'm like, I've been doing martial arts since I was born, basically. But I see all these other kids doing all these other cool things. I want to try that. And I ultimately stumbled on, if you will, basketball. Basketball became literally a passion of mine. And I'll never forget when I first created my first email address. I chose the email Going Pro 22. And that was my basketball number. that I chose. And I remember looking up to Michael Jordan and Reggie Miller and all these people, and it became my thing. And my dad put up a hoop on a tree in the backyard. And and in the backyard, it was such that over the years, the grass got worn down, and so the hoop actually became higher. But then there was also another hurdle at the back in which that there was a fence, and just on the other side of that fence, going downhill, was a lot of poison ivy and poison oak, right? So if you missed it so much so that it bounced and went over the fence, good luck, because either the ball stays, you lose a ball. And I grew up very poor, so I didn't have money to do that, to buy balls all the time. So I had to learn how to become a better shooter. And again, I'm telling you this because this is what shaped who I am. And it's this idea of trial and error, or trial and continue to work on, right? And so I learned how to get much better. So I became a great shooter. And then I started developing a knack for being a great basketball player. And that's what enabled me to start traveling outside of my small town, because I was asked to go to this tournament, and I was asked to go to that state, and I got these accolades for this, and we won state championship in basketball at my high school. And it just started to go on and on and on and on. And again, the point of me bringing this up is I started to see how other people trained. I started to see how other trainers worked with their teams. And, I had this background of, because in the martial arts world, there's this notion of you don't lift weights because you don't want to slow down. You don't want to be slow.
Right.
So that's all I knew. That's all I knew. Now I understand that to be so not true, right? But back then, as a 16-year-old, 17-year-old, you're kind of like, okay, push-ups, a lot of stretching, but don't lift weights. I started lifting weights, and I started jumping higher. I started running faster. My shot, I was able to shoot from farther out. Now I'm getting noticed by colleges. And now, I progressed to playing in college and started to do well in college. And then while I was in college, to supplement my income, I had a couple part-time jobs. And one of those jobs was working at GNC. So I worked at GNC, General Nutrition Center, and I started to understand supplementation and nutrition. Even I say quotes around nutrition because, let's face it, it's probably not the best nutrition and supplementation information out there, but at least got me started along a path of, okay, wait, so creatine can do this, and ginkgo biloba can do this, and you can start to learn all these different things. And remember, my dad was a herbologist, and he liked to deal, because we used to treat pain with these potions and these tinctures, right? So I had all of these different ideas, and so I then progressed on to I graduated college. I feel like I was a late bloomer. And I think it was my junior year or senior year, I ended up breaking my wrist. And my sophomore year in junior college, I broke my finger. I broke my wrist at the university I played in, a 4-year school. And during these moments is when I got a chance to be in the medical side of things, right? I got to go to the X-ray offices. I got to talk to bone specialists. I got to talk to all these people. And anyone who knows me, I'm a very curious being. So I'm asking all the questions, and I'm sure I probably pissed a few people off, but I just want to know, right?
You're that guy.
Right.
Well, what are you doing there?
Right. They're putting stem machines on me, and I'm like, well, what's that? What is that doing? And they're just like, dude, just lay down, no, I really do want to know. I'm curious, So that's what ultimately got me interested in the world of training. And so I majored in mass communications at the university. It was a Northwestern Oklahoma State University. So my major was mass communications, which I think communications is huge, which is we're doing exactly what we're doing now. But then I minored in physical education because I knew at some point, somewhere, I would be dealing with it. And oh my goodness, I now know that what I learned back then was just a bunch of BS. I mean, listen, it got me asking the questions, but back then it was like what I learned about nutrition is not nutrition. I mean, it's just like these made up things, and we can go down a rabbit hole there. But then even just learning how muscles function and things like that, it's like everything is in a vacuum. And so once I learned it, I almost wanted to unlearn it. But then I had to go back into that vacuum again to get all my certifications, because, you know, I didn't come in at this from a physical therapy standpoint, although I did choose physical therapy and psychology as my first two majors when I went to the junior college. But because I had to work, and because I was a tutor, and I was playing basketball, and I was taking 25 hours my first semester, wow, it was too much. So I was interested in all that, but it wasn't until I started doing my certifications after college that I started to think, wait, so this entity is saying the muscles function like this, protagonists, antagonists, and, you know, and don't round your shoulders, but keep your back straight, but don't stabilize it. And then this entity is saying, no, the body's supposed to flow like this. And then this entity is saying, oh, no, you're supposed to eat lots of fat, because fat is good for you. And that entity is saying, don't eat animal meat. And it's like, I was like, okay, you know what? Let me do all of it. Let me do all of it.
Correct.
So that's what I do. And that's how I got to where I am.
That's so beautifully said, because I think that kind of leads into the next thing, which is, you know, obviously the real master tries everything, discards what doesn't work, and integrates what does. And also needs to have an understanding that different bodies, different styles, different exercise, different goals require different components. And that's what I think is so dogmatic, where people become an XYZ diet versus, you know, an ABC diet, and the ABCers against the XY, and it's like, no, let's talk about first principles, you know, because 80% is uniform, and then there's these branches depending on where you're going to go. And the only way you really discover that fully and can get past kind of what I call the algorithmic prisons that lead to confirmation biases and tribalism out there. that's you know, people are living in, they're just getting their own biases reaffirmed by their little tribe and going up against other tribes and stuff. And it really, you know, the best thing that happened to the fitness world and nutrition world and the biohacking world is interconnectivity, and the worst thing that happened is interconnectivity.
Well said. Well said. Yeah.
And now for a Bioptimizers fixed digestion tip: supercharge your protein shake. Everyone knows protein shakes are a great way to sneak in extra protein, build more muscle, even replace meals and burn more fat. The problem is the highest quality protein typically absorbs at around 40%. One way to fix this and dramatically increase how quickly and effective your protein shake digests is to add 2 to 3 capsules of masszymes into your shake. One research study showed that pre-digested protein during a meal increased muscle growth significantly. To take advantage of this, just blend the open capsules into your shake, and within 15 minutes or less, the enzymes will have begun to break down the protein into amino acids. This can make your shakes at least 2 to 3 times more potent. Some people do this and sip on their shake while lifting to provide their muscles with a steady stream of amino acids during their workout. To save 10% on masszymes, use the code SHAKE10, that's SHAKE10, at masszymes.com. That's SHAKE10 at masszymes.com.
So with this background, essentially what you're saying is you started your kind of find a foundation of what I call the real principles of biohacking, which is, let's go try this and see what happens and do some experiments.
Yep.
And then you got out of college, and then that led you into, you said, what am I going to do with my life like everybody else, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, what that did, I was still in Oklahoma then. So I graduated from Northwestern Oklahoma State. And then I was like, okay, I didn't want to fully give up on the whole going pro thing, right? Like I was like, no, I'm good. I'm a good basketball player. I'm going to definitely go pro. But when I graduated and I dealt with the injuries that I dealt with, I kind of thought, all right, I need to find my path somewhere, somehow, some way. And it's like growing up in Oklahoma, I almost felt, especially in a small town, I almost felt like what everyone used to say is you gotta graduate high school, you gotta go to college, you gotta get married, you gotta have kids, you gotta find a job, you gotta work, and then you die, and then that's it.
That's it.
I was like, nah, I'm never really like that. And the reason why I felt like that wasn't for me, that path wasn't necessarily for me, is because I saw this within my dad. I saw that he could do all kinds of things. So I was like, okay, let me just try something within my field, because I did just graduate with a communications degree. I was still working part-time at GNC. So I'm like, okay, that's the physical education part, I guess. Let me try my hand at doing something in advertising. And so I got this advertising gig where I thought, ooh, this is perfect for me. And lo and behold, it ended up being a MLM, a multi-level marketing scheme, if you will. And but when I noticed that it was a multi-level marketing scheme, I was like, because it had a bit of a fitness component to it, the fitness component was you go door to door in different neighborhoods, knocking on people's doors and selling them on these different cards. Most people at that point are like, oh no, I'm out. I mean, you got to do this every day and whatever. But for me, I was like, oh, this is a good opportunity to kind of stay in shape, because I might be doing something in fitness. You never know. Like, I was thinking maybe to do some modeling or some acting or whatever. And I treated that as an opportunity. Every door that I knocked on, I got a chance to meet a new person. And I also knew that each person that was opening that door, chances are they're looking out, they're looking to see who it is. It's probably somebody to sell me something. So I was always deflecting that with a smile. And bro, like, that was, to watch that interaction happen.
Right.
And I even would bring people along with me to show, like, because each day I would have to, the goal was to use the law of averages and to try to get 10 sales per day. But in order to do that, the law of averages is 1 out of 10, basically, right? So I would have to see how many houses, 100 houses. So in a day, I would have to plan on going to see 100 houses. Chances are, law of averages, I'm going to get 10 sales. And I would take people to show how I do this. And there would be a few times where I got so good at just interacting with people. It wasn't really about what I was selling. It was about the interaction.
Right.
I had to show this to these people, that I could sell somebody without even telling them what they're selling. Now, I will disclaim, I ended up at the end of the interaction, I would say, hey, by the way, this is what you got. And it would be a great thing. Like, they would get a bunch of free food and tickets to ball games and things like that. But it was about buying into me. And that's ultimately what has enabled me to create a brand and to try to create an ideology, a method. And that goes back to that question you asked earlier. Why are people wanting to hire you, Josh? It's because of that interaction and what I learned with many different types of work that I've done, So I felt like that was a good segue into, okay, I ultimately knew that in order to progress in that company, you have to kind of stay within that company and build all these groups. And I was like, okay, I'm done with that, because it served its purpose. But then from there, I went on to move to New York, and I decided, like, hey, I want to kind of try my hand out at fitness modeling and commercial modeling, and did a little bit of fashion modeling and some acting. And I literally just decided to visit one day. I never thought I would live in New York. And I was like, what the hell? Let me go and visit. I wrote a couple emails to some of the fitness magazines. A couple of them wrote me back, and they were like, hey, yeah, like, if you're in New York, we would meet with you. Met with a couple, signed with a couple agencies, moved. And I thought maybe I'd be here like 6 months. And 15 years later, I'm still here.
That's amazing.
I've been traveling the world and meeting, working with high profile people. And one thing I do like to always, again, disclaim, if you will, is working with celebrities and working with high profile people doesn't mean anything other than it should show that you have a certain capability of handling people at that spectrum, that end of the spectrum.
Yes.
It's not even really about bragging, oh, like I've got the celebrities. It doesn't.
They're just a person like everybody else. Usually the level of excellence that they demand out of themselves and the people around them. And I think a lot of people mistake that. Like, I think people who are outside of that world kind of assume that a lot of these people are, you know, something that they're not. And I really think there's a big disservice in movies and TV shows of what these people like. I found many of these people to be some of the most kindest, considerate, wonderful people in the world, but they do demand this is the standard that we live at, and that's how they've become so successful, and that's how they've built these empires or become famous or done like the commitment, the drive, and the standard that they set. And when you enter into that world, you either deliver at that level or you're not there anymore. And it's not a personal thing. It's just like, hey man, this is what I demand of myself, and that's how it's going to go.
Yep. Exactly. I mean, well said. And clearly you get it. So what you do with that is, you also have to understand that there's a certain level of exploiting that or not exploiting that, right? So, you want to make sure that you don't burn any bridges, because it's like that whole going back to respect. If you're talking crap to your best friend about that person, correct, what do you think that person is thinking? The person you're talking crap to is going to somehow in the back of their mind, subconsciously, they're going to be thinking, okay, so this is a funny story you're telling me, ha, ha, ha. But subconsciously, that person is going to be thinking, I wonder if he's talking about me like that whenever we're not together.
Correct.
And that just goes one to the next, to the next, to the next. And so when you nail it and you just become an authentic person and you're very genuine about what you do and you truly have a passion about helping people, then it's easy. It's easy just to say, oh, well, yeah, he works for Madonna, so okay, I get it. Or he's worked with this person, okay, I get it. And then I also kind of back to what we were talking about before when you mentioned how many people can you get versus, how can you transform each person? I had to learn and understand early on in my fitness career that it's not a bad thing if a client you're working with goes on to do something else, right? Like, for instance, my goal in training people, whether it's training, coaching, talking, whatever, it's not for us to be together for life, except maybe if we progress into becoming good friends, but it's to graduate you, just like we all have graduated in life, right? Correct. And so, again, I'm the trainer out there that when I see somebody on social media, a Victoria's Secret model that I've trained, who's now training at this other studio, but I noticed that she may have unfollowed me. I'm like, what happened there? And that's mostly because the person she's working with now is like, oh, you're my client now. You can't work with anyone else. But I'm on the back end like, hey, bravo, good job. Now you can do a good squat. Really good job. Like, why do we have to? There's enough trainers out there. There's enough clients out there. There's enough people out there. But I feel like we should all embody this idea of graduating to the next step, no matter where you feel that void. So anyway, as you can see, I'm with you on that.
I'm with you on that, because I used to say the same thing when I was coaching with my clients, and this is for all the trainers out there for you to take in. This is what I call professional etiquette. Is you want to be confident enough in what you're doing and how you're doing it that you're like, look, this is the area that we're going to work with. And the idea is not for that person to be dependent on you forever. It's to master that skill and master that ability and then take it to wherever they need to go. Now, some people are going to want you to be around with them or be that thing. But even today, I remember when I left the industry and my clients are like, what am I going to do? My close ones. And I'm like, well, there's this person and this guy and this girl. Like, I really love what they do. And I think you're going to do really well with those people. And they got some things that I don't have. And I think you're going to go to, and sure enough, they were able to move on and develop new relationships and expand beyond my little world.
Yeah.
And that's really the final test, I believe, as the coach, as the trainer, is can you let the student go?
Ooh, Powerful.
That's the lesson within all of the coaches to me, the highest level of profession, because hey, I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm good at. And there's another client coming. And there's another quote unquote celebrity or famous or whatever, or maybe there isn't. Doesn't matter, because my integrity to my career says that I need to do this.
Bingo.
That's it. And it leads you in great places. And I always find that relationship, when you let that go, it circles around in some other way. Like that person, usually that person's like, you know what, go see my friend Joshua. You're in New York, go check him out. I worked with him for 2 years and it was the best 2 years of my life. You're flying in, go see him, or get this person, and it opens up other doors.
100%. I really can't stress that enough, because I know there was a bit of a point when we were talking about, I think you may have touched on it. I get this question a lot. You probably get it a lot as well. But, hey, man, what should I do to do what you're doing? Like, how can I get to where you are? And I go, okay, are you ready for this? Like, have a seat, because it's going to take a long time. You know, it's basically what we've been talking about through this interview so far, which is there's been a lifetime of experiences that have been had, right? I can help guide you. Back to that word guide, right? I can help guide you into what paths I took, but I could also help you to say, like, you know what, look, don't think of it that way. And I really think that being curious is one of the best attributes any of us can have in this field, and probably any field. Staying curious and not being a one-trick pony. Like, I pride myself in not being able to be labeled. That's why when, I think before we hit record, it's like, okay, we could talk about anything: health, wellness, fitness, lifestyle, biohacking. I've got used to saying that, because like, I should be experienced, right? I have experience in all of these modalities, all of these domains. In fact, I'm the person that's, when a client of mine is like, Josh, I went skiing, I tore my ACL, I'm not going to be able to see you for a while. And I'm like, it's okay. You can still see me. Like, I can help you out with your rehab. Well, but my physical therapist, I know, but do you not want to see me? You said you wish you could see me. I can come with you. I'm invested in you. Now I'm going to go and see, hey, maybe I can learn something that the physical therapist is doing. Or you're about to have a surgery on your knee, a treatment, stem cells, regenerative medicine, something like that. I'll go with you if you'll have me. And now that's what is the norm for me. I've been in all the operating rooms. I've been in, working with all the physical therapists. And what that does is it opens up my network, kind of like you just said. So if somebody comes to me, I don't expect to always be able to work with that person one-on-one, but I definitely know, hey, listen, I can lead you in the right direction. I can guide you. I can say, go work with this person, go consult with that person, and try this out.
Beautiful. So let's talk about, I know a lot of our listeners are going to say, well, what is Joshua doing on a day-to-day from, like, as you said, a committed biohacker, right? So what was your day like today? What did you, like, how would you set up your day? What's your typical day in your life?
Okay. So you probably already know I'm going to say this. A typical day for me is random. It's never the same. Mm-hmm. But the things that I can control, the things that are somewhat like non-negotiable, is how I wake up. I try to wake up with lots of light. So either artificial light by way of all my toys or actual direct sunlight with the big windows that I have in my apartment. And then I try to mentally plan out my day. Now, I'm not the typical meditator. I do meditate for sure, but I have some meditative practices that I consider meditative by listening to podcasts every morning. It's setting me up for my day. And so this becomes a part of my routine. I think routine can become a meditative practice if you intend it to be. Right. So I have I gotta
check first. What's your favorite podcast? What ones are your go-tos?
I'll be honest. My my favorite, I think my top two so far is Ben Greenfield's podcast, Dave Asprey. Yours is definitely on my list for sure. So this podcast we're listening to is definitely on my list. In fact, if anybody thinks I'm not being genuine about this, I was just listening to Dr. Oz's interview on your podcast, which is amazing. But I have it all in my list here. Let me think. What else? Another one that comes to mind is The Breakdown. So that's totally separate from health, wellness, and fitness. Sean King.
Okay, The Breakdown. I don't know that one.
Oh, get ready. That one he's a political activist.
Beautiful.
So it's a very good. It helps to separate and not always be just inundated and in the cloud of just fitness, health, and wellness. But that is a part of my day.
I got some wild podcasts. Like most people wouldn't like. Most of the podcasts I listen to have like nothing to do with health and fitness. I mean, of course,
really.
Ben and Dave are my go-tos. I'm really right now. I'm into The Portal with Brett Weinstein. So he's like a polymath, and he's got his brother Eric, and they talk about subjects that aren't part of the normal news cycle. And these are really super smart guys. Like these are confirmed, not just geniuses, but polymath geniuses. Like they're geniuses in multiple areas. And I'm like, okay, I want to hear what's being avoided. Or I'm really into psychology. I listen to a lot of Dr. Peterson. I'm into recently. I've been listening to stuff from Thomas Sowell. Who's a real legend. The guy's like a 90-year-old guy that went through the whole, like, beautiful man, just this rich 90-year-old,
wow,
intelligent black man genius, just explaining his experience from Harlem to the Ivy Leagues to, just really rich people. And I want to expand my world into physics and mathematics and philosophy and psychology and culture and politics and get a wide breadth, because in the normal news channels, this is what I love about long format and podcasts. Like in the sound bites of Instagram, Facebook, you name it, you go all down the list, Twitter, it just keeps getting worse in my opinion. There's less and less contextualization, and anybody can be taken apart. And I want to listen to a guy that shares his life experience, and it might take me 10, 15, 20 hours to get a full scope of how that person came to that conclusion. And so that's really fascinating for me. And of course, Ben and Dave are obviously go-tos. I've been fortunate to be on their podcast, but they're really kind of like at the Ivy League of the biohacking world, right?
Of course. But by the way, speaking of polymaths, are you familiar with the name Dr. Ted Achikoso?
No, I don't know him.
Okay. I'll see if I can make an introduction for you.
Beautiful.
But this guy, so I just interviewed him for my podcast, and that should be going live in a few days. So maybe I can even share that with you. But this guy is another level. He's like rated like one of the highest IQs on the planet. Wow. And yeah, he's brilliant. So I think he's also the person that created Troscription's blue carnitine, the methylene blue.
Yeah. I've had that. I just tried that the other day, actually.
I was gonna come on the show today with my blue tongue, but I couldn't find my thing. So I'm like, I think I've given them away, which is also something I do. I think being generous is also something that we do, right?
Totally.
And so, people are like, dude, you're not going to give me your last of your blue carnitine, are you? I'm like, why not?
Yeah.
I mean, like you're curious about it. You want to try it? Here, check it.
Here you go. I got some here at the house. I know people coming into my house and I open up the covers like, what do you want?
Right.
Take a bottle of this. Try some of this. You like that?
Right.
My mom taught me that. I came from a poor family as well. And anybody that came in the house, they left with something. They left with dishes. They left with food. They left with clothes. They left with something. Everybody left the house. But my mom always had stuff coming in, even though we didn't have so it was really interesting. And I do believe that spirit of generosity opens up the door to many, many extraordinary experiences. So we got you in that. So we kind of got off on a tangent there as we did.
It happens.
So going back to your meditative experience, you're listening to podcasts, kind of your morning routine, get some light, get some, in your zone, get set up for the day, your kind of, information of the day. What else?
Right. So while I'm listening to my podcast, I'm also beginning to move, clearly, because I'm moving around. And so I let that become a part of my day. And I do something very simple like shake. I shake in the morning, like the idea of animals shaking in nature. And it's like the only way that they can actually release trauma. And I kind of emulate that by literally just shaking my body. I do that almost every single morning.
Do you feel it's like a fascia, like it's a fascia movement? Like I know that, like, that's what I find too. And I had a friend that was a shaman.
Yep.
And he gets up and shakes and yells and does all kinds of crazy stuff. I was like, that's a crazy thing I ever saw. Then I started doing it. I was like, hey man, this is pretty cool.
Yeah. It's a nice release. And it also, for instance, I can tell you, you probably know about the Apollo neuroscience band, right? You probably heard of that. No. Okay.
No.
Not to be product heavy, but there's this band called Apollo Neuroscience, I think is the full name. And it's this little bracelet / anklet that creates these very small vibrations
cool.
in the body to sort of help to release stress and trauma. But before I ever got this, I would do that manually just by shaking a little bit. And then from there, I go and I grind my coffee. So I'm an intermittent fasting guy. Do you grind it?
Do you grind it by hand?
Dude,
I got a hand coffee grinder right out here on my coffee shop. Yes.
Yeah. And you'll probably think I'm crazy, but I spent, it was like almost $300 on a very high tech, cool, black, stainless steel hand grinder. And wow. it's really nice and durable, and I travel with it because I travel a lot, right? So, but for me, of course I could go out and get ground coffee, but it's part of my experience in the morning. It's part of my routine. It's a ritual. Yeah. So I'm grinding my coffee, listening to something that's going to benefit myself or others.
What coffee what coffee are you putting in that machine? Let's talk coffee.
It goes back to the top 2 podcasts I mentioned. So I go between Kion Coffee and a Bulletproof Coffee, and I've been a fan of Bulletproof for quite some time. I tinkered around when I first learned about Bulletproof with Tim Ferriss, and I learned about biohacking from somebody like Tim Ferriss.
Yeah, Tim led the way in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah. And then I came across Dave Asprey's work, and then eventually Ben Greenfield, and so on and so forth. But throughout that journey, I learned the differences between adding fat and taking it away. I even toyed around with being a vegetarian for about 3 years. I was a vegetarian.
Wow.
And then I transitioned away from that to basically being an omnivore, but mostly vegetables. I have days or weeks even where I don't eat meat. So I'm always playing around. Again, it goes back to tinkering, right?
Tweaking. You've got to tweak. I call it tweakology. Got to tweak and see. I'm always running an experiment, right?
Exactly. So that's kind of my morning routine. Once I make my coffee, then even cleaning and putting things up, and I kind of mastered the art of preparing my meals and the way that I go about my lifestyle in as minimal amount of devices or utensils as possible. Why? One, because I always want it to be ready when I need it. And so that means I'm always cleaning it upon it being finished. So my coffee is still hot, piping hot right there. I'm going to spend that extra 30 seconds or a minute to clean it right away because it's peace of mind. And it's like, oh, I'm finished.
I'm blown away because I think exactly the same. I make a shake in my cup. I drink it. I clean the shake. I make the things I gotta like complete each thing in its own. And again, I'm a minimalist essentially. It's like I get too much stuff, and it's like when you have that moving around lifestyle, it's like you can't have all that stuff. It's just annoying.
Yeah, it's annoying. And you know what's really funny about saying moving around a lot and having all that stuff is that's actually what ends up getting me to work with some of these clients. And they're like, hey, Josh, so your flight is confirmed for LA. And oh, by the way, don't forget to bring all your toys. I'm like, oh boy, here we go. Because, when I use it on them, then the certain devices that I have kind of like, bring it. So I'm almost forced to have all these toys, but within a minimal fashion, if that makes sense,
I totally get it. You got your 2 suitcases of toys, and you got a little carry-on for yourself for your life, and this is like the gear that comes with you.
Exactly.
I totally get it.
1000%. So yeah, so from going from making my coffee, drinking my coffee, cleaning my French press. So I French press mine.
Me too.
And I use the stainless steel and glass because obviously you probably talked about this on your
the
podcast.
Bodum. Yeah, like a Bodum.
Yep. And then now my day is kind of set. Now, if I don't have to rush out of the house, then I read. Reading is a huge component of my lifestyle, and I usually read with either I have the Veriflux light, and I also have the Energy Square, which is the photobiomodulation. This one that I use has far infrared, near infrared, and it has yellow.
Oh, nice.
Which is really, really cool. So I use that. I also have Juve panels, but I'm reading with the light setup and my molecular hydrogen inhalation device.
Right on.
So that's kind of my morning routine ritual.
Beautiful. Love it. That's great, man. That's great.
Yeah. So, and listen, like this is what I made this morning for coffee. Because I had the podcast with you today, I was like, one of my really good friends and celebrity clients asked me hey bro, can you come over in the morning? I'm leaving tomorrow. I'm not going to see him for a couple of weeks. I was like, for him, yes, because he's like a brother to me, and I was like, okay, I'm going to go and do it. I still haven't even finished it. It's just still coffee from this morning, man.
Man.
But I'm fueling off a ketone, so it's all good.
Beautiful. So let's talk about a couple things. Let's talk about your company, SysFit, that you're running. SystimFit, excuse me?
SystimFit.
Yep. Sorry, I don't know why I said SysFit, but and that's S-Y, can you pronounce it? S-Y-S-F-I-T, right? T-I-M.
S-Y-S-T-I-M-F-I-T. And the idea there is the stim in system is for stimulation and stimulus. And
beautiful.
A lot of what I do around, my work is all about the stimulus and stimulation. And obviously there could be a negative connotation to that or a very positive connotation to that. And I choose the positive stimulation. And also when I first created the company with my business partner, who's also my business manager, we were focused at that time primarily on electrical muscle stimulation, whole body electrical muscle stimulation. But then when we sort of developed and grew, expanded the company, we still kept that name because it seemed to make sense anyway, because we added in pulse centers, PEMF, which is stimulation. We added in ARX, we added in Vasper, we added in hydrogen therapy, we added in ozone therapy. So we've got all these things, right? Mm-hmm. But the foundation of it all is stimulation. So
correct.
SystimFit. So
beautiful.
That's what it's all about.
So now when people come to see you, do they come into this place and get assessed? Are they doing all this stuff? Or are they getting this at home? Or like, how does this all integrate together when you're dealing with one of your clients? Someone says, hey man, I need to get XYZ. What's your typical client? How does that process go and what happens there?
All right, good question. So a lot of what happens, and we'll have to talk about pre-pandemic, right? Because, like obviously
let's talk
right
pre-pandemic, and then how is this? Well, we'll get to what's going on during the pandemic, because this is a big thing. Mm-hmm. I've got a lot of my former friends have called me, I shouldn't say my former friend, but like trainers who have now branched off into other areas, and the pandemic has what do I do? And how do I I don't know how many of those calls, right? So it'd be great so typical under quote unquote old normal. Is that a word? Here we got old normal and new normal. I don't know what it is, but anyways. So how is the process? What
would normally happen is it's either, so I have a team of trainers that work for me. And I like to say work with me because, it's all good. I'm sure you're kind of understanding who I am. So 100%. I have a team of trainers that work with me. And a lot of times what I like to try to do is identify who might be better suited for each client. So we have a intake form type of situation. And it's like, if it's a referral, then that's a little bit easier because then I can say, I'll sit with you, talk to you, and figure out, what you need, what you want, and then let's see who's best suited for your availability and all those things, right? Because all of those factors are important.
Yep.
And then it also depends on, are they coming for, do they want to lose weight? Are they trying to increase performance? Do they just want to tinker around with some of the cool biohacking toys that we have? Or do they just want to kind of their friend looks good and feels good and says that everything is awesome at SystimFit? You want to kind of experience it as well? Okay, we'll give you the whole shebang. But typically what happens, let's say I'm working with a person. What happens is I want to assess every detail of that person when they come in. So there was a recent article that just came out about me. It was sort of like an interview style article that talked about my idea is to make sure that a person leaves my studio or my experience better than when they came in, in whatever capacity that you feel like is important. That could be a better mental state. That could be a better walking gait. That could be a better, pain has subsided. Gut issues have subsided, or you now have a program and a plan and you have hope. But that's the goal. The goal is to always send them on their way better than when they arrived. And then how do I do that? One is an assessment. And so there's the mental assessment, psychological assessment, so to speak, which is pretty easy. I think if you do what I do, it's pretty easy to kind of see this person's stressed to the gills, right? So that's a pretty easy one. And we can talk about this too if you want, but I have a 5 pillars of optimum health and wellness. And each of those pillars I'm kind of looking for voids to fill in each of those pillars.
What are those pillars? Just real quick.
Awareness is pillar number 1, most important. And I treat them all as a prioritization or a triage effect. So number 1 is awareness. And I use the term quality in front of each of the pillars. So quality awareness is 1. Number 2 is quality sleep and recovery. Number 3 is quality consumption. Number 4 is quality activeness. And number 5 is quality exercise.
Beautiful.
And the way it's all put out, I'm sure you probably have some questions there, but if you notice that my claim to fame is fitness, everybody knows me as a fitness trainer, but it's the lowest on the totem pole in the pillars for health and wellness. So if I can get you to do well on 1 through 4, number 5 is a piece of cake.
So true. That's so true. Awareness. I mean, I think a lot of people, just the point that they're coming to see you indicates that they've risen above the level of awareness of the masses. Like, okay, you know what? Something's not working, or I need some help, or they've opened up awareness and the opening of humility, which opens the door to everything, right?
Well said. Well said.
Right.
You got it.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. So someone gets assessed, they go through that process, and then you take them through all the different things based on the modalities they're going to require, whether they're in pain or whether they're, they need dance fitness, or they need kind of movement training, or they need like muscle building or fat loss, or stretching, or whatever it happens to be from that component.
Right. Yeah, because it's like I'm excuse me, I'm also the kind of guy that doesn't, like, I'll tell a person straight up, you don't need me. This is all you need to do. Go and do that. But that's what's given me the respect, or that's why I've gotten to where I'm at, is because I'll shoot it to you straight. I'm not the right person for you. Now, maybe one of my trainers could help you, or you actually need to go to this studio, So then what I'll do is I'll kind of break down, okay, I could probably see you once a week and we could get some great results. Or I might need to see you every day, but just for a few weeks. Because again, my whole idea is to graduate that person, to get them on to the right path. So it just depends, but chances are I'm gonna definitely take them through a movement assessment that I have. It's called MAP, which stands for Movement Analysis Pattern. And it's a series of moves I could show you, or I could send you a link to what it is.
Please do. Please send us the link. We can put it in the show notes so people can get all that info.
Cool. What it does is, it's over my decade plus years of experience in fitness and in movement and health and wellness, I started to understand that, okay, you're probably familiar with FMS, right? Functional movement screens, right? So I certified in that years ago, and I thought it was really cool. But within their movement screen protocols, you got to have a board and a rod, and step over this thing. Mm-hmm. And I thought, okay, this is cool. This is like a snapshot, and then it's like you go on from that, and then the idea is supposed to be you're good to go from now on. And I was like, I want something that can be done each time I see a person. And something that doesn't require tools to carry around and like, well, I don't have it today, so I can't assess today. So that's why I created MAP. And it's basically, it starts off in a deep squat, and then it transitions on to all the different movements that I may take a person through. And I want to see, like, Monday, you might crush it. You might do very well. But Friday, like, let's say, maybe on Wednesday you went out and you played basketball, or you went skiing, or you played tennis, right, or something, and you're really sore. So maybe on Friday you see me, I have you do the movement assessment pattern again before we start, because it serves as a warm-up and as an assessment tool. But I might see that, wow, your ankle flexibility is trash, or your balance is way off, right? So I can use that to say, oh, here's what we're working on today. So I go into each session with something in mind, but I let the movement assessment patterns dictate what it is we truly do.
That's really unique, because I think a lot of people don't recognize that. That's a very high level observational component, because it's so true. It's like, if you see me get up on a Sunday morning after I've just done a ferocious leg workout over here at Gold's Gym the day before, I don't move like the way I moved going in. Or if I really killed a back workout, or did deadlifts, or, got into like how I'm connected in movement. And it's funny, I'm working with the guy who's not really a massage therapist. He's kind of like a massage activation for those very things. Because he's like, if I'm sitting here at my desk all day, and then I go to the gym and do a weight training workout and these type of things, all of a sudden I'm not connecting, and I'm not moving from my center of my body. I'm like, my arms are moving and my legs are moving, but I'm not moving. And, he's like, he picks it up and he's like, dude, wow, what are you doing, man? Like, you're not moving right? And, wow, he's got a background in dance originally. And wow, so, and dancers and martial artists learn to move from the center of their body. And, which is the opposite when I was in a bodybuilder. You're trying to isolate everything.
Bingo.
You know what I mean? So you don't learn. And I think that's where the original idea of muscle boundness came, is that people would do these isolation movements, but not learn to move using the whole body. And so it's combining both. But that's really neat that you've been able to assess and show people how their lifestyle or what they're doing might be taking them out of their natural movement plans. Did you discover that? You just come up with that on your own?
Yeah.
Wow,
yeah.
cool.
Yeah. It was a very intuitive part of my personal practice. And again, it goes back to what I've been saying, so far is experience. You can't find that in a certification book.
Right.
You can't find that online in a certification course.
Right.
No, you've got to just experience that. Right.
Totally.
And I'll give you another one if you are happy to have it. The idea of, here's something else that I've realized, and I thought this was a light bulb moment. It happened a couple of years ago, but okay. So I feel like I'm nailing my process working with clients, whether they come to my studio or, because I still, I go to clients' homes who have home gyms and, all that stuff. And, but I noticed like these 1%ers out there, but also a lot of other regular clients. I noticed that many people that I work with won't do something unless I tell them to do it and tell them why they're doing it and how many reps to do. So let me throw them a curveball when I see them. So sometimes what I'll do is, after I assess them, I notice that they're almost like, they're like beings that are just standing there like, okay, what are we going to do next? How's Josh going to blow my mind today? And I go, okay, you know what? Today, what we're going to do is, I just want you to move for 10 minutes. Ready? 3, 2, and they always stop me before I can go 3, 2, 1, especially if it's the first time. And they're like, they're like, whoa, wait, what do you mean move? I'm like, you're a being that's designed to move, and I've been helping coach you to move, right? Let's just move for 10 minutes. Ready? 3, 2, and they stop me again, almost every single time. They're like, but like, how should I start? And that's when I educate them and say, listen, I want you to never encounter this situation ever again. You are designed to move, and no one should tell you how to move. Let your body move. So I'll give you an example, but next time I should not be able to give you an example. You should be able to just go. So if that means it looks like dance to you, if that means shaking up and down, if that means lying on the floor, if that means jumping, whatever. Fitness and exercise should not be in a box. So
beautiful.
Just move.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's super high level.
Yeah.
I love how that one. It does. It freezes a person.
Oh, it freaks them out, man. I had one guy, I won't name him, but I had one guy, he got pissed. He got pissed off at me. He literally was like, so you mean to tell me I'm paying you to come here to train me, and you're just going to have me move for 10 minutes? I said, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Ready? Go.
Whoa. Yeah, here comes the dialogue, right?
He's like, well, can we just do like 5 minutes? And it's like, even that is a win, right? Because now you're breaking that person down.
Sure.
They have me come to them because they're type A, and, throughout their entire career and lives, they are the ones that are like, do this, do this, do this. But then when they see me, they're expecting me to go, do this, do this, do this. And that's that interaction that they need. But when I tell them, hey, let's just be free for a moment, they unravel.
Completely.
That's what helps me to understand the psychology of why I'm doing what I do, though.
Completely.
So there you go.
It's this very Mr. Miyagi moment. You got to enter into the beginner's mind.
Yeah.
Right before you can be to unlearn what you've learned.
That's right.
That's beautiful. All right. So, man, this time is flying by. So let's say, would you say is your top five biohacks that you think, okay, these are the top 5 things. And if you have to go more than 5, that's okay. But what are your 5 favorite biohacks right now? Because I know it's always evolving, right? Because I find I get into trends and I'm on something for a while.
Yeah. That, good point. Good question. And I would say that's probably the one downside of this trend of biohacking, is that there's just always something new, something more,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I could answer this in two different mediums, so to speak: low-hanging fruit or high-level tech.
Well, you could do both.
Okay,
do
we'll
one
do
and the
both.
other. Let's do both.
Well, so one of the main ones, again, going back to the whole, I could probably break it down in the spectrum of my 5 pillars. So that's probably the easiest.
Sure.
Okay. So in the quality awareness, I would say meditation is the number one biohack.
Yep.
Now, within meditation, the low-hanging fruit would be learning how to meditate.
Yep.
Right? Or practicing your breathing, which is also a form of meditation, right? So that's you can consider it a breathing meditation.
Yeah.
You can, there's many different ways of doing that. Or you can do what we talked about before, which is create a ritual that it could be considered meditation. Okay. So that's the low-hanging fruit. The sort of high level would be doing things like 40 years of Zen.
Oh, have you gone to 40 years of Zen?
I have not.
It's epic.
I did speak to Dr. Drew.
Dr. Drew?
And Dave, actually, a couple years ago when I was on tour, and I talked about trying to set it up and do it. I haven't had a chance to do it. Because
shout out to the world. I've been meditating for 20 years. Last year, so we take our executive team to 40 years of Zen every year.
Fancy.
It is the number one return on investment that we can do. The capabilities, the capacity stuff. And shout out to that. The last time I went, which was in February, it pushed my meditative practice probably at least 15 years.
Wow. Bravo, man.
1 week.
That's amazing.
But bravo to Dr. Drew and to Dave for creating that phenomenal job. I went to of course, I went to Biocybernaut, the progenitor with Dr. Hart, and did all that, and then went to 40 years of Zen. And I got to say, anybody out there that's meditating, you want to take your meditation to the next level, you want to refine that meditation, you want to get to that sublime state that you read about, that's a great way to go.
Yes. And a segue into that is, well, hopefully I get a chance to do that, because, it is something on my list, but a good segue into that would be, if we do get you to connect with Dr. Ted Chicoso, you'll want to talk to him about all the stuff that he does, because that would be next level. But another, maybe not as high tech or costly as 40 years of Zen, would be like the Muse headband.
Yep.
Neurofeedback of any sort that you can understand. You actually can become aware of your awareness, if that makes sense. And that's deep.
It is true. Become aware of your awareness. That's so true. Become one of my teachers called it the eye of I.
Okay, there you go. That's a good one too.
Of I, by Dr. David Hawkins, one of my spiritual teachers. So go ahead.
Yeah.
What else?
Okay, so that would be the meditation piece would be the probably number one biohack.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then everything trickles down into the quality sleep and recovery. So the low-hanging fruit is get more sleep, right? Like, do whatever you got to do, set up your environment to get better sleep. And that goes from, making your room cooler to turning off lights and devices before bed. Also, the way you eat before going to bed and or lack thereof before going to bed.
Yeah, nothing throws off your sleep like eating before bed, right? I mean, it just blows everybody out.
Right. And then the higher tech piece of it, I would say track it, become aware of it by getting something like an Oura Ring, which I have on, obviously.
Go. Oura Ring.
So like Oura, there's so many different like sleep tracking and hacking tools out there. I also have the what is it? The chili pad,
Yep.
different, there's a lot of cool devices out there that can help with that, but it depends on where you are in your situation, but those are good. Moving on down is quality consumption. So low-hanging fruit, pun intended, I guess, is focus on your meals, right? So get into this practice of a great resource that I give out to a lot of people. I'll give out in the form of a person is Dr. Kate Shanahan. Mm-hmm. And her book, Deep Nutrition, and probably my absolute favorite resource as a book right now is the Fat Burn Fix. So if you want to learn about quality hacking for your food and nutrition, definitely read those. But a quick tip is get rid of vegetable oils and maybe teach your body how to fast. That's the low-hanging fruit. Fasting, intermittent fasting, figure out what windows work best for you and what macronutrient ratios and all that stuff. But that's the low-hanging fruit. Fasting is amazing. It is amazing. It's transformed my entire practice. 100%. I think it's inexpensive. I mean, you talk about a great way. It's the cheapest way to master your body. I'm doing alternate day right now. So I do 12 hours of eating and then 36 hours off 3 days a week. And beautiful. It's extraordinary. And you're not a skinny guy by any means. No, right? No. And I'm not a skinny guy by any means. No, I'm actually, what's interesting about that is I'm recomping up. I'm almost 50 now, and I'm gaining muscle as I'm losing body fat. And I got 3 36-hour periods where I'm not eating. And every guy that I got doing this right now is experiencing the same thing. And we're doing our body fat, we're doing our DEXAs, we're doing it. I ain't never seen anything like that. And it's leveraging the power of your hormones and your endocrinology and all these other components. I think that in today's world where we eat all the time, that we don't leverage this extremely powerful anabolic system. Absolutely. Totally agree. Yeah. So that's the low-hanging fruit on the consumption part. On the sort of the higher tech, again, it goes back to just there's a lot of apparatuses out there that allow you to track your food and to track your keto cycles, or if you're producing ketones or not. So you can obviously, that's pretty highbrow. Next would be quality activeness. So the low-hanging fruit there, which also ties into the consumption part, is just going on a walk. Totally. Right? Going on the walk, like, first of all, I have a continuous glucose monitor on, right? Yep. And what I've learned from that is if you want to moderate and adjust and work within your glucose levels and your glycogen levels and your insulin, and you want to kind of create this nice harmonious balance in the body, go for a walk after you eat. I mean, in fact, go for a walk anytime you can, but especially a nice little walk after you eat does so many wonders for your body. It's amazing, actually, right? And in New York, you have to, right? Because everybody walks everywhere in New York. And it's interesting, when you go to New York, you see a lot of in great shape people relative to other cities. Right. Because everybody's walking around in New York. Forget driving. I mean, like, it's nuts there, right? It's like, forget it. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's the, just getting active. And remember, I put activeness ahead of exercise because I like to think of what is the low-hanging fruit, again, what is the most bang for your buck? Well, we can do walking and activeness components far more than we can ever exercise without damaging our system. Totally. Right? Because you don't want to put too much stress on the body. There's a good amount of stress known as hormetic stress, or the hormetic effect. Yep. But we also need to understand that, like, I could walk for 2 hours, but if I try to exercise for 2 hours, I'm probably doing more harm than good. Mm-hmm. So that's that one. And then the high tech part of that would be, tracking it with steps and gamifying your situation. Gamifying it. Yep. And then last but not least would be quality exercise. And within quality exercise, it's a number of things that I could talk about, but I'll keep it simple. Low-hanging fruit, go online or get with a trainer or try to educate yourself on how to work out. One of the best workouts that I could suggest a person is the NO dump, the nitric oxide dump that was formulated by Dr. Zach Bush.
Some people might not know about that. You want to expand on that right now?
Yeah, I'll quickly touch on it. So the nitric oxide is I kind of like to explain it as a way to increase circulation throughout the body. And so there's different ways that you can achieve certain levels of nitric oxide bleeding into the body. You can do it by nasal breathing. You can do it by practicing breath holds at the end of or even through workouts or walking. Or you could take supplements like beets. You can take Human N is another cool supplement that you could take. Or you can do a workout that is sort of a low-level workout, only nasal breathing, and do a certain amount of movements, right? And so this NO dump, the nitric oxide dump, is designed you do a series that's 4 exercises done 3 rounds, 10 to 20 reps. Again, I can send you a link to this. And the idea there is the body is sending more nitric oxide through the body so that you get better circulation, and it boosts your hormone levels for up to 2 hours. So if you're doing that 2 or 3 times a day, now you get a chance to benefit from this hormonal boost, this especially for guys, right? Like we can get this testosterone boost for doing something as simple as a 4-minute exercise routine, 2 to 4 minutes. You can do it while you're brewing your coffee. It's really, really cool. And it's what's enabled me. I do it with my Katsu bands, which we could talk about another day.
Beautiful.
So I do that workout. That's the one I'll send you, actually. I'll send you my Katsu workout. With the
that'd be a great one. For those who don't know, Katsu is about where I'll let you explain the Katsu thing. So
yeah, it's blood flow moderation.
Yes. More
commonly known as blood flow restriction. Mm-hmm. And that also is a way to kind of I think the easiest way for me to explain all these modalities is that it increases circulation. Our body really needs circulation, and that's why walking is beneficial. So you're getting that lymphatic drainage, you're getting that lymphatic movement. And then when you restrict the blood, what you're doing is you're sort of slowing down the venous flow. So blood is able to go into the muscles. So if you're restricting the arms at the upper arm, near your shoulder, near your armpit, if you're restricting the blood from leaving the upper arm, then it starts to swell. And there's a signal that happens in the body. It's this chemical signal that happens systemically. So even though you're affecting the upper arms with the blood flow moderation band, there's a systemic effect that's like, hey, we've got to do something to get all that blood from pooling in the arm to go back to the rest of the body.
Right.
So the nitric oxide comes in and helps to kind of expand all the different vessels, the blood vessels. So now this blood, once the pressure goes away, it now speeds up this circulation process, but you've also got this chemical signal that's happened throughout the body. So if someone has never experienced like a Katsu workout or a blood flow restriction workout, get ready, because it'll blow your mind, and you'll feel this level of fatigue without having to do heavy weight in seconds.
So it's such a different feeling, and and the Katsu bands is the safe and healthy way to do it. Some people are like tying off their arms and stuff with bands and stuff. Like, do the Katsu program; it's much better.
Absolutely. So that I think is my very long list of five.
That's a really, really great list. And thank you for sharing that with you. And then I know we're coming up here about an hour and a half. So I want to ask quickly, what have you been doing in this whole lockdown thing in order to train your clients and coach them through, this, person to person restrictions?
I've been utilizing technology. It's really interesting because I think it was about, so we're in 2020, it was about 4 years ago. I had a stint of about 9 months where I had a contract with Microsoft and Skype, where they hired me to help to promote the idea of training via Skype, because back then Skype, for the longest time, it had been known as this opportunity to like use technology to talk to people overseas. And they didn't want to be limited to just a conversation to some friends and loved ones overseas. What are other ways you can use Skype? And so for me, it was a very natural flow back into doing that, because I was already used to doing that anyway.
Right.
And so I've just kind of now started utilizing Zoom and FaceTime, and I still use Skype every once in a while to work with clients one-on-one via Skype. I've also, because I know my privilege in being able to work with very wealthy clients, I've also decided not to do a lot of group classes, because I want to open up the opportunity for people who do need that income that comes in on their online platforms. Right. And then I've been just sharing a lot of this. So a lot of my trainers that work for me, anytime that they host a class, I try my best to either hop in or share anything that they're doing. And then every once in a while, I'll do freebies for different companies. Like, you know, they'll have me host a workout for an hour or so. So that's what I've been doing.
Beautiful. And so, Joshua, where do you see the future? What do you see happening for Joshua over the next 5-10 years? Because obviously your star keeps climbing and climbing.
Ooh, that is a good question. I hope that the world becomes a better place, first and foremost. Mm-hmm. And I hope what we're going through right now is a lesson for all of us, that we are truly one, and how we treat one person affects all of us in some capacity. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so I hope that there's more inclusiveness and less exclusiveness when it comes to all things, but especially in the world of fitness, health, and wellness. I get sick and tired of, well, this is my method and this is my invention and I did this first and this is me. Whereas, hey, let's get together, let's pool together to try to truly help each other. Because if I help you, you help me, we help we, right? All of us. So I feel like there's going to be more studios popping up that do a lot of what we're doing in my studio. Mm-hmm. And I think that there's going to be some, I'm hoping to do a little documentary series about more like in depth on what I do. I have this idea, this project. So if anybody out there is into this kind of stuff, but a lot of people are probably unaware of this, but my family, they're all in Oklahoma, and especially on my dad's side, they're morbidly obese. And my dad is close to 500 pounds, and he's been dealing with health issues for all his life, and that's probably why I take so much passion in what I do. But I want to do more with working with him, and in order for me to be able to go back home to Oklahoma for some period of time to do that, I want to create a project around it that enables me to still work and live and maintain all the things that I have going on, but also to help him so it can help the world. So that's what I hope the future brings, actually.
That's a beautiful dream, and anything we can do to support that'd be great. Any final words that you'd like to leave with before we wrap up this episode of the show? I'm going to have to get you back because we're having so much fun. It's just like a mind meld.
I would be more than happy to come back on. I guess one final thing, and something we didn't touch on, and something I think is very important, is I am very appreciative of what you and Matt are doing with your company, right? Because, and I'm dead serious about this. When this opportunity came up to do this podcast, I was like, of course, because I've learned so much about the enzymes from listening to you two. And what you guys have developed. And I have to say, one of my favorite supplements to date right now is the magnesium breakthrough. It
is a breakthrough. Boom. Yeah.
And I'll just end by saying this. So I'm a guy that for my entire life have dealt with cramps, muscle cramps. It's almost a joke. Like I would literally, growing up, I would be sleeping in the front car after playing a basketball tournament with, in the front seat of my dad driving me to and from games. And I would cramp and I would hit him so hard that he's like, what's going on? And it would even affect my driving, like if my right leg cramped up and it's on the gas, can you imagine what happens? You're on the highway.
Wow.
And anyway, I haven't had one single cramp since I've been taking the magnesium breakthrough. So let that be something. And I mean, this is my entire life. I'm 39 years old, just turned 39.
Wow.
So for 38 plus years, I've been having cramp. Well, I don't know if I was cramping when I was a baby, but you know what I mean? It's been a breakthrough for me. So thank you for that.
Wow. Thank you. That's so great to hear. I love that. And yeah, the magnesium deficiency is so deep, and we've kind of covered the whole spectrum with it. So thank you very much. Joshua, man, you are just such a pleasure. I could spend all day talking to you. We'll get you back. And it's so neat how sharing similar backgrounds, we've come to the same conclusions organically through movement and people and exercise and philosophy and teaching and student. I mean, beautiful, beautiful time. Thank you so much for joining us on the Awesome Health Podcast. For those who want to find you, can you share where's the links, Instagram handles, all that sort of stuff?
Oh yeah, well, thank you for the opportunity. I am fortunate to have all of my social media and ways to find me to be one simple thing, at Joshua J. Holland. So that's Joshua, Joshua, the letter J for my middle initial, and my last name Holland, Holland, like the country. And that's the handle for Twitter, for Facebook, for Instagram, TikTok, and it's even my website, www.joshuajholland.com.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for joining us on another Awesome Health Podcast. We'll see you guys on the next episode. Take care.
And now for a Bioptimizers fixed digestion tip: how to get away with eating sugar. Hey, look, sugar is normally one of the worst things for you. But let's be honest. I mean, we all cheat from time to time. And here's a little trick that will ensure your body benefits from the sugar. Now, before you eat or drink anything sweet, take 5 to 8 capsules of P3OM. The patented strain in the formula devours sugar so fast it literally doubles in the body every 20 minutes in the presence of sugar. That doesn't mean that you can or you should eat a bunch of sugar or sit around all day doing that. But on the days that you do cheat, or you go after one of those maybe meals that you wouldn't normally do, this ensures that you get something in your gut that eats the sugar. And it's not going to feed the bad guys or spike your blood glucose nearly as much. So to learn more about P3OM and its sugar-devouring and protein-digesting properties and how it can transform your gut and metabolism, go to www.bioptimizers.com.
Thank you for listening to the Bioptimizers Awesome Health Podcast. You can find more information at bioptimizers.com.